Alrighty, welcome to this week's episode of Modern Day Heroes. Pumped to have my dear brother and a hero of mine, Rigden Brinkerhoff, here with us, bro. What's up?
Dude, what's going on, baby?
This is a blast, so I'll give you guys some context. Rigden and I met in 8th grade, and the way... No, it was my 7th grade year, your 8th grade year. The way I learned and heard about this guy is he was in PE class, and it was the talk of the town. And he did something to the PE coach while they were playing like tennis, baseball or something. And the PE coach decked you with a ball, right?
Yeah, tennis ball right in the face.
And for some reason, it became the talk of the absolute
we loved
town,
it,
man. So I'm grateful for that PE coach, dude, because of that.
Dude, yeah, and I tell a story, so it's like old to me, but feel really bad for him because like he was terrified after like he was dude, his life was over. I was like, dude,
and you took advantage of it.
I took advantage of it. I got some money. That's kind of started my career. I just felt bad after. Like I was like really mad because we didn't really like him. And
so
I was
remember, give us a little context.
Yeah,
You're running the bases.
Yeah, running bases. I'm on second base like usual. I don't skip base. Man. I'm always on base. I don't strike out. So I'm on second base, and I'm like yelling something at him like we want a pitcher, not a belly itcher or something like that. And Rhett, our friend Rhett, is in the class too, and he's like going at. He hated us, me and Rhett, and so I'm like saying stuff to him. And he just turns around on the mound and full on throws it at me and drills me in the mouth or the eye or something. I think it was the eye. And I'm like, you idiot. Hope you like getting fired. And then I was like mad for like 10 minutes. And then he walked me up to the eye. Immediately his reaction was like freaking out. Like he knew his life was in jeopardy. His job was in jeopardy. So I was like, when I saw that reaction, I was like, gosh dang it, I feel bad. So I actually had mercy on the guy and told him it was me being an idiot. So I'm a good guy.
You're a good kid for that.
That's a great story.
Well, I'm grateful, like I said, man, because it's led to great memories.
Absolutely,
and years
dude.
of friendship.
The best.
So, grateful to have you on, man, because I love jamming with you. Is like it's an experience in itself. Like I think collectively we learn a ton where we're just like,
yeah, super
raw. Hey, I think you're missing the mark here. Whatever. And so I just love jamming with you, bro. Admire who you are as a husband, as a friend, and as an entrepreneur, man. So I want to dive into some of that today.
Let's roll, baby. I could be better in many ways, but yeah.
No. Give us the origin, dude. So it's 2017. You get back from your mission. Where did it all begin? Where did the entrepreneur journey begin? Like, where did that drive come from? How has that become your path today?
Dude, I wish I'll give it to how I'm thinking of it right now. I'm probably missing a lot. But I've just kind of always, and I hate to be that guy, but like I've always been like doing those kind of things, right? So like you remember in high school, did Christmas lights, burn lawn care, Blake, Rigden, Naaman. We destroyed the town of Gilbert. Their lawns were trashed. We had one lady, we scalped. It was the middle of like winter, so like grass in Arizona is beautiful. We scalped. We had the lawnmower too low, so we scalped the first line. The next line we raise it, and it's like still scalping. Next line we raise it, and it's like by the time her yard's like 15 by 15.
She had stair steps.
Yeah, it was literally stair steps. We ruined her winter lawn. Oh, incredible.
And then I feel like after you still went up and tried to get a paycheck from it.
Yeah, we were like, listen, we were here, we did the job. Your grass is shorter. What are you waiting for? Where's the money? So Naaman, this is the best part actually, is Naaman knocked on her door and asked her for scissors so he could cut her bushes. Right. Yeah, or maybe you did. I don't know.
No, we didn't have a weed eater.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get the corners, and so we improvised and used scissors to get the corners of her lawn.
Gosh dang it, yes.
That's where it all began.
So yeah, it all began there. And then before then, like junior high, I've always loved like just things. Like, I'm not like a consumer guy, but I love well-designed like products. And so I loved phones. I'm 26 right now. So I was like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I just loved phones. Like I would just buy, they didn't work like for me. I didn't have them as my phone until like 8th grade, I think. But I bought like just iPhones. One of the first Android phones, it was a Google G1 or something. And then like Samsung Galaxy S1 and 2. So I would just buy phones and flip them. And I would like, they had broken screen, I would fix them. And I also loved just being able to have a different, when I did have a phone, I loved having like a new phone every week.
Yeah.
It was just fun, like testing different ones out and whatnot. So like I flipped phones and just like loved, like, I was like a Craigslist master, like just bartering with people and meeting with people on the street, like 50-year-old dudes. I'm like 12.
So fun.
It is cool. I remember asking my dad reminded me of this. He said like one time you asked me to take you to Best Buy so you could sell your phones outside out front. We didn't do it, but anyways, yeah. So that's kind of like, I've always just been like that. And there's probably more there. I just don't know and I can't unpack it because I just don't have the recollection. But yeah, they went on my mission.
Well, and then you started making rings in high school, correct?
I don't think so.
I swear you were doing
Maybe.
a little bit. I'd
There's-
go over
again,
to
there's probably
Lindy's
things
house and
That was after mission.
interesting. Okay.
But maybe, I mean, I'm probably missing so many things. So, go on mission. And on my mission, first, I guess, I feel like I've brought this up like 3 times in the past day, and I hate even saying this too, but like this will tie into later on. In high school, you know this, like I would go to Goodwill, and I hate, this is the part I don't like saying, but it was before it was a thing, right? It's like I would go to Goodwill and I'd buy clothes, like, you know, all my
you were
friends
the
know
OG
this.
thrifter, dude.
Hate to say it, but yeah, it's like nobody. It wasn't. Not only was it not cool, I was a homeless dude. Like people,
People thought you were weird.
Yeah, uncles, aunts, like everybody would be like, "You're homeless. Like, what are you doing?" My hair was all scraggly. I had these clothes that were old and like whatever. I thought they were cool. I'm sure I wasn't the only one. I know it wasn't, but definitely was before it was cool.
You were the OG, bro.
Dude, come on. So I'm like buying clothes, and the reason I liked it, I got made fun of every day at school, but I kind of liked that because it's just like, you know, it's different. It was fun. Like I just was a kind of I don't know, crazy guy. So I go on my mission, and like you're next to this dude who you're very different from, but everyone sees you as the same, and that was a constant. It wasn't like stopping me from doing things, but it was a constant like bother of mine where I wanted to be different. Like I wanted this guy to be different than me, and like me different than him. And I wanted people to see why that, and I recognize that that's not a unique to me. Everybody wants to be different. Everybody wants to be seen as unique. Everybody wants to be understood. And so, on my mission, I would do things to like separate myself. Like I'd wear not like crazy ties, but like I would still inject my style. So that satisfied a portion of that. But then get home, and in high school we had a Christmas light business. Continued doing that, just like me installing lights, and then slowly built a team, and like merged with another company, and then simultaneously was doing pest sales and solar sales, and then simultaneously started EVORA. So that's like, yeah, kind of a backstory, and I can go into any one of those, but
cool.
Yeah.
Now give us the origin of EVORA. How'd that come about? Because you were doing multiple things at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is 2018. I got back in 2017, July. So like almost a year later. When did I meet Brenna, my wife? I think hadn't even met her at this point. So it's 2018. We met on New Year's Eve, 2018. So like 4 months later. I might be getting, I think that's right. So, a year from being back was wearing rings like the whole time. I just like started getting into rings and was like, okay, a lot of these are expensive and a lot of them aren't like the style that I want. So I'm just going to make a few. And I don't know where I got the inspiration from. A lot of people in here in Utah, well, I think there's multiple people that do rings, but I think it was just an authentic thing. I was just like, oh, spoons. I see these designs on these spoons. Let me get them and cut them and bend them into spoon rings, which was a thing. Like it was a thing being done many times. But started making spoon rings, and I started soldering like silver bezel cups, which is where you put the stone onto the spoon rings. So it'd be like a whole ring with a stone. then started making, like, started getting material, like the equipment for casting. So I'm not going to go into casting, but basically you can like make a mold of a ring and like pour metal in, and it like makes like a full ring, and then you like sand it and stuff.
And did that fire you up? Like, were you just loving the creation? Were you loving the design piece? What was like, dude, I love this. This is sweet.
Yeah. So I've also been like, always been like not a tinkerer. I kind of like, my brother's an engineer, and like I'm a little bit of like that. Like I'm kind of an engineer mind, where like I love to know how things work. I'd always break things apart and like put them back together. Like Nerf guns, I would modify them. I always want to make things better, so I'd modify Nerf guns. I would take my shoes, and I always change the shoelaces. Like my uncles always make fun of me for this too, but I had a pair of Doc Marten sandals in high school, and I cut off the heel because they were too long. And they were just like, to them it's just crazy, because it's just like you cut off the heel of a pair of shoes and cut off like another piece of leather. But I just always did. I was always modifying and always like changing things. And so I loved like the design and like the creativity behind it to a certain point. Like I'm not, and I'm realizing this about myself more, is like I'm not like a full on like creative guy. I'm a creative person, and I see that as a big part of who I am. But I also like, I'm also in equal portion, I love like the business aspect and like the more operational aspect. So it's like, it was hard for me just to be a full-on creator, because I'm like, I don't want to be a jeweler. Like I'm not trying to be like a designer. Like that doesn't intrigue me that much. Like I like the design and I love design. I like to create my own things, but not like that's the only thing I'm doing. So after I started making stuff, I was like starting to sell them to people. And it was just fun for a little bit. Then I was like, okay, there's got to be something more. My sister at the same time was like, hey, there's this place up in Utah where people make their own rings. Why don't you do something similar? And I was like, that's actually really interesting. Because like to me, I like this because I can make my own ring. I could be unique. I could make something that no one else had. If I could make an experience where people come in and do the same thing, that would be cool. Like that, like I would like to help people do that. So we started EVORA, which started off as a ring company where people came into a retail store and made their own ring. I can give much more backstory there, but we started off in a house, another house, and then a retail store. And this is, again, 2019 was our first like session, is what we call them, where people come in. And then 2020 is, and September 2020, we got our first retail store. And then, yeah, I don't know if you have any questions. If you don't, I'll keep going. Okay. So, 2020, beginning of 2020, I was playing basketball, and I feel like you would have been there. Naaman definitely was. I remember Naaman there for sure. It's the only person I remember there, actually. But anyways, we were playing basketball, and on the bench I saw a watch, and I was like, and shortly before this, I was like, I identified EVORA as like, I want to build the Build-A-Bear for Gen Z. So I want to build a brand where people come into retail stores and online, and they can customize products that are unique to them, and just have a one-of-a-kind experience doing it.
I love that.
And so that was like the vision at the time. And so when I saw this watch, I was like, why don't we create a watch that like you can customize? And it's very simple, like just like, okay, cool. And I started the process there, and like it was that was 2020, and like from 2020 to 2022, obviously a lot of things happened, but took that whole time to develop them, find a factory, do the molding, all that stuff. 2022, we launched the watches in the retail store and then online. And then in the summer of 2022, was talking to a mentor. No. Before that, 2021 was talking to our friend Alex, who was a mentor of mine as well. And he was just like, dude, you got to pick one thing. Like, you're doing Christmas lights, solar, and EVORA. It's like nobody as an operator just kills it doing three things. Like, yeah, you can be an investor, and you can be an advisor, and maybe like a partner in this way, but you're not operating the business. You can't be an operator in all three things. You got to pick one if you want to kill it. So I was like, yeah, to me, the clear choice was EVORA. I was like, I was willing to be risky. I was willing to be like, yeah, Christmas lights maybe was a more mature business and like had more like potential at the time. But EVORA was just more fun to me. It felt more like organic to like who I am. So 2021, really 2022, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. We launched the watches. Perfect timing for that, because like the watches felt like something new. I was kind of getting sick of the rings. It just didn't feel like we were attracting the wrong people. Like we weren't attracting Gen Z. We were in the wrong, like we were in Gilbert, Arizona. That's not a very like trend. Like it's not a very cool like street style kind of place. So it wasn't the right place. And so we launched the watches again, simultaneously me deciding to be all in on EVORA. So I get out of the Christmas light business, stop doing solar. Now I'm all EVORA. So then summer of 2022 comes along. I'm already kind of thinking this, like, I don't really, not that retail was the problem, but just watches and rings and the way we were selling them were two totally separate things. So I was talking to a mentor and he's like, dude, you need to pick rings or watches. And when he said that, I was like, okay, yeah, like we're cutting out rings. It was clear as day
Which
to me.
was making you money and bringing revenue every month.
Yeah. So it was a scary thing to do, and like
For sure,
it was a hard thing to do, but well, it was also a really easy thing to do because it just felt right. So it was a pivot, right? It's like there's definitely a path here, but like it was less like, I think in order to be successful in business, especially if you're going to be a scrappy like founder of any kind, it has to be so tightly like wound, the purpose and like what you're doing to like who you are. I can't go make a jewelry brand for women. I could if I got at least $1 million of like capital, and I don't have to be the operator. Sorry, I'm still going to be operator, but like I can hire people from the get-go. If I'm going to be a scrappy founder doing it like myself, I'm creating content, I'm doing all this stuff. I have to be like ultra passionate. The customer really has to be me. And so that's why it felt easy to make the decision. Also hard because like we're cutting off this lifeline of ours. It's like it's the business we've started and we're cutting it off and we're shifting into a whole new thing. So end of 2022, we're out of retail. We're stopping. We don't do rings anymore. We move into like a little warehouse office in Arizona. And now we're a full e-commerce brand and business. So 2023 was really our first year as an e-commerce brand, and we just had the watches. But the weird thing is like 2023 was a strange year because it was like an identity crisis. Like we didn't know who we were. We were just selling watches. Like we never planned to be a watch brand. And in 2023, I didn't see us as a watch brand. I wasn't like, okay, we're here to disrupt an industry. Here's our competitors. Like I didn't know who our competitors were. I didn't know what our next products would be. I knew nothing just because like we got rid of rings. We're no longer like, the idea wasn't to be the Build-A-Bear for Gen Z anymore.
yeah.
But we're left with this product that's a watch that I think is cool. And like we're selling it and people are buying it. But like, that's not what I set out to do. So 2023, we're just kind of saying like, I'm just being busy and we're just selling the watches, like trying to grow it. But like at the same time, we didn't really have a clear message. We didn't know what industry, again, all that confusion. So 2023, I'd sum up as an identity crisis, like I said, for EVORA. But still growing. Like it was a really good year overall. And then end of 2023, talking to the same mentor and a couple others. And he was just like, I think there's an opportunity to be the next Nixon, the next Casio, the next Timex, like these big brands. So I started thinking about it and I'm like, hey, I decided like that's what we're going to do. Like I really do. I'm not like a watch guy, but I see us as like the watch brand for people that don't wear watches. And so I was like, okay, we're a watch brand. That was the first piece of like clarity that I got at the end of last year. From there, it's like, okay, what's like, why watches, and like how do watches, and how can I build a brand that ties into something that I am like, not just passionate about, but it's like something I'm living every single day, something that I believe will change people's lives. And so, so thinking through, I was like, okay, personal development, just like becoming a better person every single day in any area, spiritually, physically, mentally. That's something that I've since my mission, it just changed who I am as a person. And you can change, you don't have to go on a mission to come to that conclusion, but, that's the pivotal point for me is like my mission. I'm never going to be the same. Like I'm always going to be like time. I cannot waste time. And I do it still, of course. Like every minute I waste doing something that's not productive and not an investment in me or people around me, I feel sick. Like even though I still do it, it's like I'm still scrolling on social media. I'm still doing this, doing that. At least the awareness is there and like the sickness is there. where it's just like, this is not how I should be spending. I'm not numb. I'm not like blind to it. I'm
good.
very aware. And I think
Good.
that's the most important piece. So anyways, to me, it was like, how do I create a brand around like personal development and like just becoming a better person? And that just didn't feel right. But I was like, what are some other things that I'm very passionate about? So it came down to like, how like we're nowadays, and this is, I'm still like in the middle of this, but clarifying our message is like nowadays, like I think all of us are way too stimulated. Like we have way too much information. Dopamine is like, we get cheap dopamine at every turn. We're bombarded with information. And I think the overstimulation is the piece that like I like to focus on a little bit, just because if you think about it, like what stimulates us, and actually I'll go back to my mission. Going to Walmart on my mission was the funnest thing in the world. Like it was like P-days, going shopping was like, it was so stimulating. Like, it was the funnest thing. Talking to family once a year was the funnest thing. But it's because I removed all the dopamine, all like the stimulation that was just cheap and quick, that my stimulation baseline was dropped like significantly, to now where I could find excitement and like joy in little things. And now I'm back in real life, you know, for 8 years. 8 years. No, sorry, 6 years. And I'm just like everybody else, like my dopamine and my stimulation level is like up here. So like what excites me, what brings joy and peace is like, there's a higher baseline that takes more. It's like a drug, right? It's like, if I was talking to a drug addict, they would literally be like, yeah, you're describing exactly what I feel with alcohol or drugs. Like that's exactly how it works. So we're all addicted to dopamine and stimulation. And so tying that back into EVORA, it's like, with that being said, we're wasting our lives. Like nowadays, our devices are just destroying our lives. And I don't want to make like a doom and gloom thing, but it's reality, right? Like we spend way too much time just numbing ourselves with TV, social media, yada, yada. And we do not spend enough time investing in ourselves and investing in the people around us. Like where I find the most joy, and I'm not alone in this, we're all the same. Where you will find the most joy is investing in yourself and spending time with people you love. Like that is the way to be happy in life. Of course, there's more to it, but it's like investing in you and investing in relationships is the key for happiness, if I were to put it really simply. And so that's the message I wanted to share. Like, how do we tie that into watches? Okay, well, it's like time is your most valuable asset, and we consistently waste our time. And it's like, we want to create a movement to help people and inspire people to invest their time in ways that are going to produce joy and peace. So anyways, there's more there, but yeah, I don't know. I've been rambling for a little bit, so I'll take a break.
That.
But
so you took us through the evolution of starting from a ring to doing to doing multiple things, to pivoting to doing one thing, and then pivoting to doing one product within that thing. And then after 2 years of really doing it, just now coming across like, hey, what's my message?
Yeah.
Which is interesting because most people are like, I can't start until I have clarity on what my message is, where I'm going, like what's the brand.
Yeah.
And I think the powerful thought, I mean, dude, you guys will do millions of dollars of revenue in that time, and you didn't know your message.
Yeah.
You didn't quite know your demographic. You didn't quite know your people. And there's power to that, dude. And so I think people that are trying to start a business that are like in the analysis paralysis phase, it's like, dude, start, pivot, figure it out. Like, it's going to come. The idea is that everything. For sure.
Yeah. And I don't want to cut you off if you keep going. That's something so I'm a perfectionist. Like, I want things to be perfect. And I think it was a happy accident where it's like, I've always, and this is a mistake of mine, I've always tried to make things perfect before launching or before moving. But at the same time, I
think most people do, by the way. I think most people actually never start because they never finish that phase. Yeah,
I agree. I find myself in that trap within, like, okay, maybe the EVORA, I'm just like rolling with it. I'm just making things happen, like, without having a perfect plan. But like within EVORA, it's like, hey, our marketing, like I'm waiting to go on like these changes we're making until it's perfect, right? So I still fall in that trap. And the thing with focus or anything, it's like you can there's like layers to it all. It's like, yeah, I can focus my whole life, like 3 businesses. Okay, I focused on EVORA, but that wasn't enough. I needed to focus on rings or watches. That wasn't enough. I need to focus on who are we as a brand? Like what industry we in, focus in, like where's the opportunity? Focus in more. Then within there, like, so is the key, like a big lesson I've learned and I'm still learning is just focus and the power of focus. Again, I still have to learn it, but it's like now, like we've taken a couple steps back the past few months where I've gotten rid of people. I've cut out expenses just cause like I felt like we were not to get too like in the weeds with it, but just going back to focus, like we just were too, I don't know the word, like there was just too much for not enough, like for our level. Like we just were trying to do too much at one time. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but again, it's just focus. Now it's like I'm saying no to literally anything unless it involves content creation, influencers, and product development. Like if it doesn't involve those, of course I still have to, like I still got to look at the finances. Like I still got to do things like that. But like for the most part, 90% of my time, I'm forcing myself to focus on those 3 things. I forget what we were talking about before that.
Just kind of the evolution of most entrepreneurs get stuck in the phase of it's got to be perfect before I roll.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get stuck in that all the time. And I think, I don't know, there's no real answer other than just like ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, is that a book title?
Yeah. And it's just like the concept of, dude, just take action and figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
Have you read the book, Ben Hardy, 10X is greater than 2X?
I started it, haven't finished. I think you told me about it.
So I remember chatting with him November. So 4 or 5 months ago. And he was telling me about this mastermind program he has that makes him well over 7 figures every year. And the concept of 10X is greater than 2X is you take your top 20% and you keep it and you change the other 80% in your life if you want to 10X. And so currently what you're doing with your time is those 3 categories. And if you want to 10X, it's like, cool, what's the 80% you have to not only get rid of, but change? And so it's interesting when I was chatting with him because he's like, yeah, this thing makes me 7 figures, but it's not going to help me 10X. Therefore, I got rid of it.
Wow.
And so we're talking several $1 million that he is forfeiting for the long-term vision, for where he's trying to go, for the long-term scale.
That's crazy.
And it is crazy to comprehend. But also I recognize a lot of that within your story where it's like, hey, you know, because you know what you're trying to get to and you know what the vision is, it's like, cool, I'm going to push this out. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to get rid of this. And I love that, dude. I think most entrepreneurs get so caught up with like, oh, dude, I can't let that client go.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like they bring in so much revenue, but they take 90% of my time.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, get rid of it, bro. It's the best long-term thing that you could do.
Yeah. And something about like, I don't know, maybe it's just like me, because I love getting rid of stuff. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because I feel like there's maybe a correlation with why it's maybe easier for me. Because I just like connect, I just like comprehend it better, maybe. I don't know. Where I hate having stuff. So like at our house, we literally have, we live very minimally. Like if we don't use something, I'm getting rid of it.
Yeah.
And in the same way, like, so the Christmas light business, we have the same predicament where it's like we have these clients who are paying us $400 or $500, but they're causing 95% of the headaches. They're the ones who take, like, there's no system established. We got to get there. We got to get into their garage and get their lights. Like, it's not our lights. It's not our custom cut. Like, it's just, we're spending, and what are you, it's the opportunity cost. You only have so much time, energy, bandwidth. What are you sacrificing by spending the time and energy, money, resources there that you could otherwise just be allocating? Yes, it's not going to be immediate return. Like, I'm not going to cut rings out or cut those customers out. And immediately it's like, dude, whoa, we just like, so you're just giving yourself more ammo to then go use elsewhere. And like, once you go use that, it's like, you still have to go put it forth, but like you should be able to reap the rewards as time goes on. But yeah, I think that's a very important lesson for sure. I'm still learning it.
No,
for sure.
I think that's something you embody. quickly give us the vision now that you're here, now that you feel like you've got clarity moving forward. Where should we expect to see EVORA?
Come on. Dude, I'm like really excited about EVORA right now. It's like the clarity. I have clarity, which gives, I think clarity is one of the most key things that you can have. Because with clarity, then you know exactly where you're going and like what you're going to do, right? So now we know we're a watch brand. Okay, like now we know what our next products are going to be. Like the watch I'm wearing isn't EVORA. Like this is our first design that I designed really scrappily with a dude from ASU who knew CAD. He wasn't a designer. Like this is not EVORA. It's just what's got us here. And like now our next designs are going to be other watches, metal, other plastic watches with other features attached to them. Cool. We're not trying to do smartwatches, but like I'll get there. So again, there's a massive gap. And to me nowadays, to be successful in really any company, but I'm like in like the consumer category, as an e-commerce, as a physical product, to be successful, you have to find, and there's many examples, you have to find an industry and find an unserved demographic, right? And it's just a happy accident. It wasn't like I reverse engineer, like, hey, what's an industry? Right. We just, I'm just making it work as I go. It's like, okay, well, if we're a watch company, is there a gap? Like, how can we fit in there and like serve a demographic of people that's like underserved? So right now there's no watch brand for Gen Z. Like there's no watch brand that I'm like, that's my watch brand. And there's no watch brand that a high school kid shopping at like my buddy Cam, Old Habits store. Like there's no watch brand that he's like, that's my watch brand if I'm going to wear a watch. And so we're going to be that watch brand. And there's a massive business opportunity to step in there and like take market share from Casio and Timex. And really, I don't think it's even taking much market share because they don't have much of the market. And that, with that being said, like tech devices are growing. And so how do we fit in there as well? Another problem, like I mentioned at the beginning, is mental health, right? It's like, I don't want to be like, mental health is such like first off, like overused, and it's like, it can mean so many things. But to me, mental health is just like, how present are you living and how in control of your life are you? And again, I think we let devices, dopamine, all these things control our lives, and we are constantly filling the void. And so I want to make simple watches that do one thing. They tell time on purpose. Like they're simple. I think a big key to life is subtraction. And I think Alex talks about this, like addition by subtraction. You remove things. You're not looking for what can I do more to like make my life more peaceful. It's like, no, actually just remove more. And that's how you get the peace. So like we're going to create watches that are simple and they do one thing. And that's the point. They're distraction free. You don't look at your phone for the time, and guess what? When you look at the phone, you see notification, reminder, text, this. Even if you don't go in and get tempted by like going into that and going down a whole rabbit hole, you still get like, you lose focus. Like the amount it takes for us to get unfocused is crazy. And then the second thing is I want to create watches that are a constant reminder that time like truly is precious. Like me and you just had a friend pass away, right? And it's like, I thought about this a lot since then. Yeah. Where it's like, dude, time really is like so precious. Like every minute you have with your wife, your husband, your kids, your siblings, your friends, like should be cherished, and we take it for granted. Most of us wouldn't take $50 million for a guarantee of living for one more month, which tells us that time is priceless. So I want to create a brand that creates watches, and maybe we go out of watches eventually and like do other things. But right now we're a watch brand that creates watches that are a constant reminder on your wrist every day that time is precious and not to waste it. And so going back to like the mental health stuff, it's like, I think now we're just like, everything's chaotic. Like we just have so much going on, and like we're anxious, suicide rates are crazy. So I want to create like maybe in like 2026, 2027 is kind of the product roadmap. Create watches with mental health features. Again, not a smartwatch on purpose. Like I don't want to create a Bluetooth connected device that like has your text, has all this, maybe, whatever. But I think that there's things to implement in like a device and a wearable that assist you in becoming more present or becoming more mindful or having, I don't know, just like maybe meditation, whatever it is. That's a couple years down the road, but that's kind of where we're going and like why I'm super stoked about like where we're at.
Love that, dude.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
Well, I'm excited, man. I'm thrilled for you, and I'm thrilled for where you're heading.
I appreciate it.
I want to dive a little bit into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You've never been an employee, correct? Have you ever had a W-9?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, sales, yes, and then
That's 1099.
oh yeah. So yes, for like 3 months at a pool company.
Look at that, man.
I'm laughing because those times were fun with our brothers Cappy and Naaman.
Oh, those are the best, dude.
Those are
So for the majority, dude, I mean, we're talking 6.5 years. It's been doing your own thing outside of 3 months, to a degree. And entrepreneurship can be beautiful. It can be spiritual. It can be super filled with joy and filled with sadness and loneliness and all the emotions, bro. Sometimes you go to bed at 3 a.m., you wake up at 5, and it's just like, it's just what it is, dude. Yeah. It is what it is. What's been the worst day of your life as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a good question. Man.
Do you have one of those stories where it's like, the house is on fire?
For sure. Yeah. Man, I cannot remember a specific day, and I really, really want to. But I will say this. I'll try to think of it as I'm like, maybe it'll come up as I talk. There's been like millions of those days. I would say there's been like hundreds of those days. Literally hundreds.
Which, by the way, I would just want to give context to the audience, happens for us, and it's some of the greatest things that we could ever experience.
For sure.
So I don't say this in a negative light.
Yeah, no, and I there's, dude, it could be one day I'm on top of the world, the very next day,
for sure,
it's all crashing down. And that's like the most cliched thing to say. I feel like everyone always says that, but it's real. I can't think of a specific day, but overall, like I said, there's been hundreds of those days, and sometimes it's like a month at a time, 2 months at a time, where I'm just like having to push through. Gosh, I really want to think of like the specific day. I can't think of it, but that's part of it. And I think if you're not attached to like a deep purpose, you're going to quit.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think like we hear that all the time, but if you're not, that's why, like, to me, I've always had to connect it to, because if I don't connect it to something that I care about, I don't care about it enough, and I'm going to get burnt out. And like, it's just going to be like, dude, this is not worth it. Like, why would I go through all this for no reason? And so that's why it's like I took the last 3 months to think through, to talk to mentors and just go through exercises to find out like, what is our message, and like, how is it something that I am like super passionate about, that like is like core to me? Because if it's not, me moving forward, when those hard times come, as cliche as it sounds, it's not going to be easy to move through. Like, but if I'm passionate about the message, it's not about watches. Like, we just happen to sell watches. If I was a life coach, if I was writing a book, I would be talking about the same exact thing. But we just happen to sell watches, which is something that I love. I love design and all this stuff. So I've kind of married multiple things into something that like is me. So those times come, man. It's like, I will say, this is a little bit of a tangent, but like, I think doing things with people is important. I think that's something that I've missed. Is I started it with nobody. My wife has been there the whole time, and I've told her this many times. I'm not just saying this because it's like sounds nice and cute, but like, literally, if it wasn't for Brenna, I actually would have quit many times, and I don't know where like I would be. Probably like my mental health, speaking of that, would be awful. For real.
She's the best, dude.
Yeah, she's good. So
she's amazing.
Yeah, she is. So it's like, I've had her, but even with her and no business partner, I've had one business partner, one of our good friends, Grant, and he was just doing other things, and he had to, we love Grant. He's the funniest human being we know.
That's the man, dude.
We could go on. I want to go on tangents right now, just talking about Grant, because I love Grant. But Grant was a business partner for like 6 months to a year. And then since then, just been me. The one consistent thing is like, I need a business partner. And it's hard once you've already got something going to find someone that just fits. And So yeah, it's, I would say like to help combat that, having someone with you that's like in it with you, that fails when you fail, all the things with you. Not only is that key, it's like that is a lot of times critical to like success. So yeah, I could go on forever about like that stuff, but that's just part of the game, I think.
Beautiful, dude. People are important. One of my last questions here is, what are the common mistakes you see young entrepreneurs make that end up causing their downfall, per se?
If I had more time to think, I would probably give a better answer. But the first thing that came to my head when you asked is like shortcuts, and they want quick, right? Shortcuts. One, there is no shortcut. Like we hear all the time. I'm living proof of that. It's like not that I've tried. Of course, I've tried taking shortcuts at times.
Dude, yeah.
But like I'm living proof that like I'd love to have $100 million brand right now and have it sold today after starting it a few years ago, which we've pivoted into now a different business. But like, would have loved that. But like, it just takes time. Like the 10-year overnight success, right? We've heard that 20-year overnight success. People become aware of you when you've done all the work to be worthy of awareness. But it took 15, 10, 20 years. And I think nowadays with social media, it's like we see the overnight success.
Yeah.
But like, it's like that picture you have, the iceberg. It's like we don't see the 5,000 feet below that it took. We just see what's up above the water.
Yeah.
And so I think the number one thing is like, because we live in such a fast-paced world, we think things happen fast. We get dopamine fast. We get stimulation fast. We get everything is fast, that we want the same thing for our lives, but that's just not how it works. That's what's causing a lot of, I think, mental health issues, is like it's not a correlation. Everything else is fast, but like the success and the results aren't fast, and it never will be.
Yeah.
So it's like a weird like conundrum. So yeah, that's the first thing, is like just wanting quick success, which with resilience is the main key. But in order to be resilient, you have to be paired with something that you're passionate about. I said a second thing. Do you remember what it was? If not, it'll come to me. But yeah, I don't know. Overnight success, just like quickness. I would say that's probably the number one if I were to give one thing.
Hormozy has a quote where he talks about those that can commit to the long term are those that succeed, and the ones that don't are the ones that don't succeed are the ones that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, dude, because sometimes the long term for people is 20 years.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah.
Like we could dive into the Amazon and the Steve Jobs, and it didn't happen in 2, didn't happen in 3. Like Elon, bro, on the couch for 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, and that's who he is today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that concept, and there's so many stories and ways we could spin off of that. But my last question for you, man, is in your 26, right? In your 26 years of living, dude, who's been some modern day heroes for you, and how have they impacted you?
Some are dead and some are alive. I love history. So I love looking at, and I think you probably know more because you're more in his ecosystem. Russell Brunson. I think this is from him, but like I would do the same thing, but like he helped me like amplify, and I don't do it enough, and I need to do it more. Where because he also loves history, he'll put himself in his library and like imagine himself having conversations with Andrew Carnegie and like all these like ballers that he looks up to, that like I love like American history specifically, and just like the people that built it and like what it took, and like it's just like it's just like I love it. So thinking back to those guys and like imagine yourself having a conversation with them, that's the coolest thing. So I love doing that. And so a lot of them are dead. A lot of them are like American heroes, whatever, American entrepreneurs still living today. I was going to say this earlier, is like at a certain point, because I didn't have a business partner, mentorship was even more important. And there was a point where I was like desperate. Like when I say desperate, I was desperate for it. Like I was like, I just had no direction. I needed someone in my corner, someone to cheer me on. Like even family, It's not a knock on my family, but like my family's doing their own thing, and like they're not like in
sure.
it like with me, you know. And they're not like, they're kind of in my corner, but kind of not, you know. Which sounds weird to say. It's like I don't really mean it like that, but Brent has been in my corner the whole time, obviously. But like, there's never been like a mentor who's like, this is the guy I want to be. So I was like desperate for mentorship because I just wasn't raised in an area that had brand founders, e-commerce founders.
Right.
Like, this wasn't an area like that. And so I had to go outside of that network and go figure it out and like meet people and just like force my way into people's lives. And a couple of them have been pivotal, and a couple I've mentioned, not by name, but like I've mentioned a few of them throughout this story who like helped me at pivotal points, including at the end of last year with like this whole message thing. And I'll give specifics, but I just think mentorship is obviously key. And if you don't have the mentors around you, like neither did I. And there's people much worse in much worse situations who have found mentors still. But you have to go find them. Like, you have to insert yourself and just hustle. If you hear them on a podcast, reverse engineer how you can get in front of them, how you can get an email with them. And the good ones that you really want to be around will give you the time of day. And like, that's what I found. I was like, there's been a couple, for whatever reason, that have just given me the time of day every time I ask for it. And like, I'll be forever grateful for that. And also it'll come back. Like, I'll do the same thing. And I try to do the same thing as much as I can, although I'm still young and like don't have as much experience. But yeah, I mean, I looked at like the cliche examples, you know, like I look to a lot of sports examples like Michael Jordan and Kobe, just because they're like hustlers. I love Walt Disney. Steve Jobs is probably one of the most consistent ones, just because there's something about Steve Jobs that like, he was just like obsessed with product, which I think, not saying I'm like Steve Jobs, but like, I think the things that he is interested in, the way he thinks, is similar to the way I think. Like, I love product design, but also love business. And like, I'm a creative, but also like very much like A-type personality, you know? So Steve Jobs, and also he's like kind of into like Zen and like just like peace, although he was like kind of a crazy guy. Not saying I'm a crazy guy, maybe I am, but Steve Jobs is a consistent one that I like always refer back to. But anyways, I know I didn't give a ton of specifics, but
Brother Newman,
man.
Adam Newman, man.
I love him. He's another good one.
It's a shared favorite of ours. Cool, man. Well, dude, I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing your message, and we're excited to hear about the journey. I'll put a link below for anyone listening.
Let's go, baby.
For EVORA's website. Go buy a watch.
Let's go.
Be the best thing you could do for your time.
Let's go.
Come on now.
Distraction free, baby.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Appreciate it.